Good morning, everyone. I'm Ernesto Burden. I'm the publisher of New Hampshire Business Review, and it is my pleasure to welcome you today to our webinar, Business Planning in Times of Economic Disruption. We are going to hear from some top New Hampshire business leaders on how they're coping with, managing through, and even finding opportunity in a somewhat turbulent time. I'm going to introduce our moderators and hosts first, and they in turn will introduce our panelists. Before I do that, I do want to remind you all that we have the opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A function, so please do that. Also want to let you know that the video recording of this will be available after the fact. We'll send you an email as long as you're registered, which I presume you are since you're watching this. All right, our two moderators are Matt Benson from She & Finney and Scott Ellison from She & Finney. Welcome, Matt, Scott, and our panel.
Very good. Thanks, Ernesto.
Good. Thank you, Ernesto. Let's give everybody a second here to click in. All right, very good. Well, thank you, Ernesto. As Ernesto said, my name is Scott Ellison, and I'm a partner at the New England law firm of She & Finney, Bass & Green. I'm pleased to be joined this morning by my partner, Matt Benson. We've got an exciting webinar lined up for you guys this morning. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said 2,500 years ago that the only constant in life is change, and that's certainly more true today than ever. So here with us this morning to discuss how to plan for business in this changing environment and what opportunities are out there. We've got three New Hampshire-based manufacturers. We've got John Greer from Wirebelt Company of America, Val Zanchuk from GraphicCast, Melissa Florio from Ambex Manufacturing. And before diving into this morning's presentation, John, Melissa, Val, would you each like to give us a short introduction and tell us a little bit about your company?
Absolutely. I'm John Greer. I'm fifth generation president of Wirebelt. We're a family-owned business. Almost everything in today's world runs on a conveyor belt. We're a small piece of that, and family lore has it we helped get Girl Scout cookies started, Thomas English muffins, and our belts help move things like parts of space shuttles, spent uranium rods, and even sorting blueberries. So we touch a lot of different things, primarily food. And that's specific to things that get chocolate coated, lots of pizza ovens. And I like to joke that I'm a really big deal in the dino nugget world. So almost anything that gets breaded, that's also often running on one of our belts. We're a multinational company headquartered here in New Hampshire with locations in England and Germany as well. And we've been one of the top places in New Hampshire to work by New Hampshire Business Magazine. So proud of that and trying to keep that going. And personally, I live in Raymond, New Hampshire with Katie, my partner, and my dog, Berkey. I love rowing. I've got a little painting behind me for that. I tried out for the Olympic rowing team a couple times and got to train with the Winklevoss twins of Facebook fame. And I enjoy a lot of time outside. And I think that's a quick intro on me.
Well, John, as a Girl Scout leader and lover of Girl Scout cookies, I thank you for your support in that area. I'm Melissa Florio. First of all, thanks to Scott and Matt and New Hampshire Business Review, Shaheen Finney for bringing us all together for this conversation. I am the president of Ambex Manufacturing. We are a family-owned business located up in the White Mountains in Albany, New Hampshire. So not Albany, New York. Everyone always says, where is that? And I say, Albany. And then they think New York, and no, it's New Hampshire. And then they always say, well, where is that? And I say, well, you drive right by us to go to North Conway to ski or shop. So, or sit right in front of us on a Friday afternoon if it's traffic. So we formed back in 2001 as an plastics engineering design firm. And then 2008, right during the Great Recession, we decided to branch out into manufacturing. So Our expertise is in high-end plastics design, ISO 9001 certified facility. We provide comprehensive custom injection and compression molding. We do initial design through full-scale production, focusing on mold designs and builds, prototyping, secondary ops, retail options, et cetera. What sets us apart from, say, maybe an offshore manufacturer or even domestic is that we focus on complex geometries, tight tolerances, advanced materials that require technical expertise beyond a standard manufacturing process. So we chose Albany, New Hampshire, because my husband likes it up here. I'm not a skier. Everyone always thinks that. I do like to hike, I guess, and I do love the lakes. So that's where I'll be going this afternoon, because as we know, I think we're going into our 14th week of rain on the weekend. So I'll be trying to enjoy some of the afternoon with my daughters so that we can get out there and enjoy this environment. I look forward to the conversation. Thanks again for having us.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Val Zanchuk, president of Graphicast. We are a relatively small manufacturer located in Jaffrey. Our major market is the medical equipment market, although we do not sell anything under our name. Into that market, we have a number of long-term relationships with companies that do. So we are always dependent on the flow of our customers as to whether or not we're doing well. In the last 24 years, we've had 6 instances where our sales have dropped more than 10% from one year to the next. So we're used to turbulent times. And I think, as all of us will indicate, the state of manufacturing is such that it's not always stable, not always easy to plan. And we probably have all developed ways for each of our companies to function in these times.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Scott and I just wanted to run through some questions for you, and really it's intended to be a conversational framework here, and we just wanted to get your feedback, and there is an opportunity for audience members to ask questions as well, as we'll try to address those if we can along the way. I know there's a lot of challenges that you guys are facing, and we just wanted to try to get a sense of some of the bigger ones, right? And there's been a lot of talk of tariffs and things like that in the news. So maybe we could kind of start with that, and maybe start in reverse order, start with Val. And Val, what are you seeing in terms of challenges with the tariffs and the tariff frameworks and some of the changes and the trade deals that are in process of being negotiated?
That's a pretty turbulent situation. We have not yet been affected by the tariffs. Our primary material is globally traded. It's a commodity. So the impact of the tariffs is going to be yet to be seen. What we have seen is that the long-term prospects for an economic decline are affecting these commodity prices. So even though the tariffs have been around now for 4 or 5 months, our most recent purchase of material was actually at a lower price. So I think the commodity markets are factoring in a decline in the economic situation, and it's reflected in those numbers.
And how about you, John? What are you seeing?
We deal a lot in stainless steel, so we are all over the news right now. And that I know a lot of things have been bumpy on the tariff front, but how much steel is going to be taxed, it continues to be a question. So for us, definitely has impacts on our supply chain. Our inventory becomes a little interesting on that front as well. But for us, one of our biggest concerns is continuing to serve our customers. And when we look at ourselves serving Canada and Mexico in particular, those are ones that really stand out to us from our North American location. And also we resell our manufacturing locations manufacture slightly different products at each location. And so we sometimes have the opportunity to sell some of our European manufactured products in the United States. Obviously, our ability to do that with products that are made with a large percentage of stainless steel, it's going to get challenging. So we got a couple things on that front beyond just management of people getting excited and trying to keep up with all the changes happening.
And how about you, Melissa?
Yeah, we've been seeing it more on our tooling side. So, unfortunately, and I'm sure Val and John could speak to this, the labor pools in the United States for manufacturing, like our tool design, our tool makers have gone from, being like Leominster being the plastic capital of the world, where you could go down there and there'd be like 20 tool shops to make you a tool, to one or two. And even then they have to call people who've retired and say, can you come back and repair this mold? We don't have the expertise in house any longer. So all that expertise really at this point is offshore in China. And so all of our molds are being built over in China. And so it's been this play of, and literally, we had 5 molds that we needed to bring onshore when the first, announcement happened and the shut off. It was like, we can't bring over these molds at 100 and something percent higher increase because we can't pass that on to the customers. So now the molds are sitting over in China, then they get lifted, then you're like, okay, so now everyone's scrambling at the same exact time to try to get everything onshore, while there's this pause. So it creates this constant, you never know what your day is going to look like, really. And what you're trying to do is just do your business so that you can provide the customer their product at the end of the day so that they can continue their operations. And so that's kind of where we're being impacted, really, is how do we get, a consistent source of our tooling and bringing it onshore, and so that we can continue production here on site in Albany.
Yeah, very good.
Melissa, when that happens, you onshore, now you've got labor needs, you've got raw material needs, everything that was happening at the China facility now is happening there in Albany. What's your experience trying to get the labor pool you need to do that onshoring and supply chain, getting the materials you need?
It's very difficult. We've been working with NHMEP for years. I'm sure everyone has been, and everyone has their own MEPs at their own state level. We're going all the way down to the elementary school level to try to get people interested in manufacturing and trying to educate people that it's not, it's not the olden days where, you have the shirt factory, where you have the sweat houses and, in unclean environments, where we actually have good paying jobs and benefits. So it's really trying to educate and say, if you're interested in science, it can apply in manufacturing too. So, and, if you're interested in art, have you ever thought about being a tool designer? There's so much precision involved in that. So really, just keeping the networks open, and we've been having to train, really is what it ends up being. So it's a lot, it's intensive, setting up the apprenticeship programs and, getting people on board. And unfortunately, the Carroll County that we're in is the grayest county in New Hampshire. So not many people are looking for jobs in our area. They came here to retire. So we have that kind of going against us too. So you just really have to look outside, and like these webinars are great to connect and network and go to associations and build those ecosystems to help support you when the pain points arrive.
Oh, you bring up interesting comment too, Melissa, about working with the MEP on training, and the MEP is under threatened close. So that may not be a resource for manufacturers going forward. So there's many aspects of the administration's tariff war that impacts manufacturers beyond just price of material.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone should be calling their representatives and pushing, and the MEPs are so valuable, we can't lose them.
How else are the cuts in federal fundings? I mean, you can't listen to the news today without hearing about proposed cuts in federal funding. How else are those cuts affecting any of the three of you?
Well,
mean,
like I said, the MEP is the most obvious one for those in manufacturing. We're looking. I'm on the board of the MEP. When we're basically looking at a closing procedure if indeed there's nothing resurrected. And even though we've all reached out to our congressional legislation, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any recognition of the impact that the MEPs have on manufacturers. So I think that's been the most um, telling government cut that I've experienced.
Yeah, I would say the MEP, like Val said. The other thing is, they just dissolved the Job Corps. Onshoring is great. We need to onshore. Obviously, that's we're a domestic manufacturer, but it needs to be done smartly, and we need to do it in a way that's methodically planned, where we have the infrastructures in place, and most important, the labor. Without labor, even if we always make the decision sometimes to automate if we can, because we have a shortage of labor in our area, but we still need labor to run those automations. So there's always going to be that need, and to be undercutting our school systems, our job corps, the training programs that we need to build the forces that we're going to need if we actually want to bring back some of these industries. It's not making much sense.
Yeah, and I'll second Val and Melissa on this. I think NHMEP is definitely the one that's impacted wire belt the most.
So it sounds like there's some, the tariffs might be kind of one example of a more direct potential impact, but there are also maybe some indirect turbulences that are out there. It sounds like you're talking about one of those. Another one might be things like availability of financing. I mean, have you seen any impact? If you've tried to approach any financing sources, has that been a challenge? Or I know some of you are international, exchange rate fluctuations and things like that. Has that been a rockier road than it had been in the past? John, looks like you were about to say something.
Yeah, well, I just had a peek at our consolidated financials that we're working on pulling together. So I got a good peek at our currency fluctuations and some of the impacts there. And that was a six-figure swing for us. So that was impactful. But I think other than that, I don't think I've got too much else that's really sticking out. We've been fiscally pretty conservative over the years. So on the financing side, we've generally been okay, and we don't lean on that often. The one exception being that we're in Bedford. We bought an old Walmart and retrofitted it. So welcome to Walmart. But we do have 3.5 acres of parking lot, which is more than we need because we have about 120 employees here, but they're spread across a couple shifts. We just don't need that many parking spots. So we are interested in developing that. But I do recall last year when I was in some conversations to look at that, the banks were very hesitant to loan for residential development and that type of stuff. So workforce housing was a consideration. So there was a little resistance in that instance, but we don't have any other immediate needs. And the turbulence makes me a little shy about investing more capital right now.
Yeah.
Not sure where things are going to land.
Yeah, that's the same. We were looking at adding a whole new automation on one of our lines, and $500,000 project, and we just put it on hold. There's just no way you're going to, in these uncertain times, take that leap. You have enough that keeps you up at night. So I have heard other businesses who have tried to obtain financing in these last few months have had difficulty in doing so. I'm not sure when that might change, especially with the threat of the inflation possibly growing in the third quarter. I think everyone's just kind of holding back and waiting because no one really knows how anything is going to behave at this point.
Another topic that's been in the news a lot is immigration, and that's both people who are in the country without proper legal paperwork, but then also people who are visa holders, green card holders, folks who are getting educated and are working through the process to getting their educational visas and then intending to work in the United States after graduation, or HB1 visa holders. Lots of crackdowns and people having visas revoked or rescinded. Any of that immigration stuff affecting, Melissa, you were saying how hard it is to get the labor force you need. You start taking segments of that population out of the available workforce, even folks who are holding jobs. Any of you guys feeling that impact?
We haven't been feeling it at Ambix, but our customers have been feeling it. They have, they've been working, trying to teach their employees what to do if they're approached by ICE, because they have some that are immigrants holding green cards and such. So they've been working through on that end, and they do have that fear of what if ICE shows up? What if my employees are gone? So I think, so it just kind of trickles down, because then they're slowing down their orders, what they would normally be producing at a certain time. So then that kind of affects what we would be doing at our site. But so we haven't had any real labor impacts from the immigration side that impacts us directly, other than through our customers.
Yeah, we haven't seen any direct impact at Graphicast. I don't know about our customers. We haven't heard anything from them specifically about concerns they may have.
At Wire Belt, I think there's been a little bit of fear. We have 6 or 7 different languages spoken in our facility, which is really cool in a whole lot of ways. And it's created a bit of extra work for our HR department, just insofar as making sure we've got everything in line and just kind of having some conversations with people when there is some concern. Everybody is squared away here, to be clear, but again, there are a lot of first generation folks here that, English is a second language at best for some of them.
Mhm.
So, I think there's some fear that just kind of permeates a little bit.
Mhm.
So I think we can all agree that there's a lot of turbulence out there, a lot of factors. There are some others too that we could, I'm sure, talk about. If there is anything else that is particularly impactful for the business of any of the three of you that's really causing some turbulence that you see out there, please feel free to speak up. Is there anything else that is particularly impactful on your businesses at the moment?
With Ambix, like we've been experiencing, so our product is plastics. So our raw material is resin, and each resin has its own recipe, so to speak. They're your basic nylon or polypropylene or polyethylene, but they all have ingredients inside them. And those ingredients have been getting harder to obtain because of this tug of war going on internationally. Like antimony is one that is primarily sourced in China, and that China cut off that resource for us. So back in February, we received the letters from all the resin suppliers, distributors saying this is going to be a 300% increase because there's only one domestic supplier that we can get it from now. And it goes into everything. It goes into bullets, ammunition, firefighters, gear. It's not just a plastics, so now we're all scrambling for this one item that has now become scarce because of these, these climates that are being engineered pretty much of chaos versus just working as an international team, so to speak. Because during COVID, we had this similar supply chain, tugging on everyone wants a certain resin, but we were airlifting resin out of China to come back here and continue production. So being able to work with each other on an international level is so important. And the America First, in my opinion, is not going to work unless we realize that we, at some levels, need each other.
So, yeah, go ahead, John.
For us operating as a multinational business, the old line, when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches cold. So we're seeing our European locations and stuff, things are slowing down there. And I think another obstacle we're seeing is, I think, as I mentioned a little bit before, selling to Canada and Mexico is a little bit more of a challenge when they're concerned about tariffs and stuff. And so we're having conversations. This is probably very counter to the intent of the tariffs, but because we're multinational, it creates the opportunity for us to potentially ship from Europe to Canada or Europe to Mexico or some other country. So it creates some planning challenges as to how we're going to supply our customers and try to keep them happy so that they don't start looking elsewhere and knocking on our competitors' doors too much.
So I think it might be helpful now that we all agree that it's turbulent out there. Talk a little bit about how you've been managing your businesses through these times. You know, what management principles have you found helpful? What shifts have you had to make in the way that you might manage your business or your business philosophies? What things have you found most helpful or productive in terms of figuring out how best to manage, you know, the uncertainty that you're seeing from the variety of different sources that we've already talked about? Maybe let Val kick this one off.
Yeah, that's interesting because it sounds like all of us are in a situation where any type of long-term planning is no longer than a week. It's changing rapidly. What we've used to help sort of provide a planning horizon is the concept of a strategy map, where instead of a strategic plan, which may be updated regularly, the strategy map works around the sustainable competitive advantage that your company has over others. And the focus of our work is to continue to strengthen that competitive advantage. And that hasn't changed over the years. We did our strategy map 8 years ago. It's still relevant today. So that provides the long-term horizon, which in a turbulent world, you could get pretty seasick looking at the waves, messing up with your boat. But if you keep your eyes on the horizon, it becomes, less of a difficulty. And that has helped us maintain sort of a stability, even though the factors affecting our business are almost changing weekly.
How about you, Melissa?
Actually, we just finished going through our a strategy map. We just went through all of our capabilities. What is it that we want to be focusing on, and just kind of rechecking that. And that also almost aligned with our annual ISO audit too, which is, another time that we get to take and evaluate, are we meeting what we said we would for our customers being an OEM? And do we need to refocus? And then of course with ISO now, they really focus on risk. And so, taking a deep dive into what risks do we have from a federal level, from an international level, and how do we anticipate we could help, decrease their impact on our company and then obviously onto our customers. So we've just kind of went through that process. So that's something that we've always kind of do. We're small, we're not like this huge management team. So it's my husband and I. So even at dinner, we're having these conversations of, okay, this is what's going on. Did you read this in The Economist? Did you see this? This is what's just happened in China. I think this is going to be hitting us soon. And so we're able to, I think because we're more lean, able to adapt quicker, and pivot to where we need to be. Doesn't mean we're still not sleeping at night, but it does allow us the opportunity to stay focused on our end game of our focus of engineering precision plastic parts, and then how do we get there? So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at as well.
A lot of dinner time conversation. That's cheating, I think. That's after hours. John, how about you?
I think mission, vision, and values are still really impactful for us. And then I would also agree with both Melissa and Val in that kind of identifying your differentiators or your moat. I think that was what Warren Buffett used to talk about it as. Yeah, just ensuring, like, continuing to try to improve on how you differentiate relative to your competition and expand on that moat. Those things are those things aren't changing as much right now. I don't think, at least not for us. I mean, the supply chain, like some of those things are fluctuating, but some of that internal focus is hopefully going to pay dividends regardless. Also, you know, ISO is a good tool. There's some risk management stuff in there. And honestly, I've got a team around me and I lean on them pretty hard. We've got a lot of moving parts, and we often say none of us is as smart as all of us. And so it's definitely a team sport for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And I think these are the times, just like during COVID or 2008 when we were starting, like we made the decision to go into manufacturing, and then we were like, what the heck did we do? Right when the recession happens, but if we can get through that, we figure we can get through anything. But these are the times when you want to be branching out and making sure you're making those connections and finding those resources, whether it be SBDC or SBA or NHMEP. Like, go and don't be afraid to ask for help. Making those network connections now, you don't know when you might need them again. It might be 5 years later. You're like, wait a minute, I can call so-and-so and they might be able to help me. So I think this is the time not to get, too down about it, and look for those opportunities. Cause you just don't know what's out there if you're just gonna, kind of bring it all back inside and stay inside a cave. So definitely look for the opportunities, build the network now.
MEP, SBDC, SBA, those were a few you just mentioned. Who else is out there? Val or John, anyone that you've had in your network you've been able to sort of reach out to and tap into?
We've got a couple of trade groups that we can lean on for some additional information. NAM has been helpful. We're a member of PMMI. Yeah, there a lot of those trade groups of different, or advocacy groups, have been helpful at times, either whether it's providing some really fantastic summaries of what's going on. I've found I get more out of them than I do out of the news by a long shot. So yeah, those other resources have been helpful, but maybe not in a management capacity necessarily.
Yeah, and I would just throw one more out there, Scott, the local employment offices, and there's a couple of statewide programs. If a company finds themselves in a position where some of their orders have dropped off, they don't want to let go of their labor force because they're so important, right? I mean, they leave and off that you're not going to get them back possibly. So you can actually work with employment services to reduce your force, but they would still be a part of your payroll. Like, they would help you through that. So there's definitely like resources out there if you needed to manage through some of these harder times. Luckily, we're not there. We have a good diversification across industries, and with climate change, power distribution is always pretty strong for us. But there are industries that are hurting, and whether it be the med tech or the science fields, like their grants are drying up. So there's definitely these macroeconomic vitalities that, pull those resources in so that you can keep your labor and your team with you.
I'd also like to jump in with one other item that I neglected. I'm part of a peer group through UNH, which has been also very helpful. I mean, having a group of other CEOs that are dealing with these challenges and hearing them talk about their challenges and how they're working through them has been tremendously helpful for me. So I think it's a great resource. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I was in a peer group for a number of years, and very, very helpful. It's one of those places you can feel free to talk about your issues and get honest feedback, which is really, really important.
I think that's so important what John and Val are saying, because when you're at the top of the pyramid, you can't go out to your team, so to speak, on all the issues that might be happening that you're dealing with. So you're holding them in, and that's a lot that will be taking its toll on your personal health too. So to be able to have someone that's at your level, peer to peer, and have that sounding board to be able to talk confidentially about issues is really important too.
Yeah,
Just to
certainly, I
that,
think your typical New Hampshire-based manufacturer, you're not going to have a C-level suite with 20 executives in it that you can just walk down the hall, right? That's just
No.
not really the typical business environment that New Hampshire-based manufacturers are typically in. So peer support, some of those outside organizations. Any other tools you found sort of at that? We talked a little bit about sort of guiding principles and high-level stuff, but at this more granular level, any other tools or tactics any of the three of you have implemented?
I think we've also started, like at Ambix, we've been working on using the time to even look further into our manufacturing floor. So we're seeing as an opportunity to evaluate how can we do everything even more efficiently, better. Positioning ourselves for an opportunity for when we come out of this turbulent time and there's an uptick in orders again. So that's what we've been doing, is working with our employees, using that time to build confidence with them, communicating with them, because they also have these uneasiness of like what they're hearing in the news isn't what we get in our news feeds. So just that, keeping that communication open with employees as well is important too.
I think what Scott was really asking is how much help have your lawyers been through this process? No, I'm just kidding.
No one ever complains when they don't hear from their lawyer.
I do have a quick question just about the peer group, which I think you all spoke about and all seem to speak highly of. Is there a way to reach out and figure out where the peer groups are located? If somebody did want to join one, I think, John, you mentioned maybe UNH might have a resource there, but are there other places as well, or is there a particular way to go about learning more about those that resource?
I know for myself, Women in Manufacturing has, we have a New England based, Northern New England based chapter, as well as a national chapter. And so we have through there that I'm able to also connect with women leaders. So that helps as well. So that's one of a resource.
And John, the UNH resource, is there a website, do you know, for the peer groups, or a person that would be a good contact?
There is, yeah, Micheline Defort is great. I hope that's appreciated, Micheline, if you're out there. And they do have a website. I can pass that along to one of you guys at the end of the shortly, and maybe that can be shared out with anybody who's interested afterwards.
Sure, very good. Related to your tactics and things like that, I was going to ask about mistakes that you've made, but I'd like to recast that as learning opportunities that you found. Have you started down a path as you've tried to negotiate these turbulent times and said, well, maybe that's not the most effective way to try to manage? I think maybe, Melissa, you mentioned, for example, that you don't want to be too internally focused, and I don't know if that's a result of being too internally focused and realizing that may not be an effective tool. But are there other either that or other learning opportunities that you've seen along the way?
One for me,
yeah, go ahead, John.
personally, has been giving it some space, but not too much, because it is changing so fast and every day that it can eat up a lot of management time. So I have regular check-ins with my senior team, and you can eat up a lot of time talking about stuff when you might be better spent just trying to keep pushing that time towards stuff that's going to be productive for the business. Additionally, I think there's also a component of trying to balance, at least for me, leaning on our internal resources and trying to continue to grow our internal knowledge base as best as we can, and identifying that like sometimes it really is worth reaching out to outside professional help, such as lawyers, on things such as HS codes, which I'm laughing about, but like that's impactful in today's world. And certainly for us, there's a better lucky than good moment for us in that we happened to look at our HS codes, which impact tariffs in 2018. And it's just luck for us that some of our belting is being classified where we're not seeing as heavily is much of an impact on our tariffs.
Very good. Melissa, did you have any learning opportunities that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I would, yeah. So I would say, yes, that was definitely a learning opportunity because it become very easy, too easy to just stay focused on like what you're currently doing, right? And then not realizing, okay, what else is going on in the broader spectrum of manufacturing? What's going on in the state? Where are and putting yourself out there again and going, okay, the operations are going to be okay. Like it's okay to leave it. It's gonna be okay, and go and make those networks and go to those peer groups and stay involved in those levels as well, because then that's more information for you to then make those decisions, that you need to make versus just, it can get really easy to just get into the day-to-day. So staying out of the day-to-day and try not to get so focused on it is very much a learning lesson that we made at Ambix. And then, don't panic too much, I guess, like what, John was saying, because it is very easy to, you get all these breaking news or this is happening. And then, a couple of days later, it's a different climate. So you have to kind of pick your path, stay with your values. And yeah, there's going to be stress involved in it, hoping that you made the right decision. But you're never really going to know. And like Val was saying, I think he said how many times he's hit some roadblocks along the way in his 20 something years, but you just got to hope for the best. No one really knows the true answer.
So Val, what learning opportunities have you had?
Well, we've this past year we lost our biggest customer, so we saw our sales drop by 30%. So that was a big learning opportunity, and we panicked at first, but then thought through, what we could do with the capabilities that we had that were now not being utilized for that one particular customer, and we decided to take advantage of that and start working in the job shop market for metal fabrication, because we had all the skills and infrastructure for that, but we never really went in that direction because everything in our business is captive machining. So we've started going out looking for other business, and that's been working reasonably well. It's slow growth, but it is an influx of energy in the business. People see these opportunities coming in.
So I guess as you were, trying to figure some of that stuff out, were there some missteps that you took and said, oh, that's not the right direction? We really should do something else. Were there things that people should avoid doing? Learn by things that you've already experienced rather than having to experience themselves.
Well, in the case of losing this customer, we did a lot of internal planning and thinking, and we did we did approach them to try to keep some of the business, but it was very clear they were going outside because they said, well, yeah, you can keep it if you cut your price in half. So we we knew that wasn't going to work. But then the transition to the machining was really a function of our internal team. We had expertise in that area that we had been focusing on just our internal needs. Now we could take that knowledge and expand it into the broader market, and that's worked well. So no major missteps in that transition. It's just a time related transition.
I think that's really important. What Val was saying is to value yourself, because at times like this, customers are always going to push you, right? They're always going to try to get a lower price point. This is when it's going to get cutthroat. And you need to value yourself and your product, and not be afraid to divorce that customer if you need to, so that, because you are offering a higher product, and some people will get nervous and some people will back off and cave into those customers because they're thinking, well, what if? But the reality is, if you are doing everything that you've set, for your missions, your capabilities, you're delivering a quality product, then you should stand by that product and not get pushed, because there's definitely gonna be a lot of pushing by especially the bigger customers, right? They're gonna,
Yeah.
you know, the Department of Defense, I've been hearing some people saying that now they're getting pushed 8 months or longer on getting paid. You know, you need to value yourself as a business and in what you offer.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about some of the challenges and problems you're facing. We've talked a little bit about mistakes or learning opportunities. What about opportunities in general that these turbulent, changing times are presenting? You know, new markets that might be opening up to you because people are looking to source domestically, or benefits of a weekend dollar, or really any of the changes going on right now. Anyone see any opportunities flowing out of this?
We've had a couple of inquiries to reshore, and when quoted, the response was, well, that's twice what we're paying now. It's like, well, if you want to reshore and you think there's going to be, 145% tariff on the Chinese imports that you're currently paying half this price for, don't you think it would make some sense to source domestically? So I don't think some of those customers have yet realized that they're not going to get the same price they got in China,
Mhm.
post tariff. And the that market, that interest may increase once things settle down on the tariff side, and we know exactly, what the tariffs are going to be.
Yeah, I would say the same. We've had a few inquiries for reshoring. But it's, I mean, we do it as consumers. I mean, let's not be, like snobs about it. If you go to the store and you're looking at two items, your pocketbook, you're going to make the same decision that they are. Like, wait a minute, I can pay $1 or I could pay $10. And so, it is a sticker shock when they realize how much it would cost to produce locally. But then they also they're reducing their risk, right? Because now you're here onshore, so there's more opportunities if something goes wrong with infrastructure. We have another pandemic. So many instances could happen where that risk, you're going to minimize that by having a manufacturer domestically as well as internationally. So maybe John's even the best of both worlds because he's domestic and international.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I think, yeah, we are trying to leverage that domestic and international component a little bit. Haven't seen a lot of opportunities yet. I think we've leveraged it more as a commercial for ourselves insofar as like, hey, we recognize that, there are tariff conversations going on right now. We're not sure where they're going to land, but I want to let you know we are happy to supply you from one of our other locations because we value you as a customer. We want to continue to take care of you. And, we're hoping, there's some math that needs to be run on all these different scenarios, capacity at each location. There is a bit of complexity there that we'll have to work out, but there's also a little bit of opportunity depending on how some of this stuff turns out. So,
Right.
yeah, I see opportunities and they are not slam dunks by any stretch. There's still some legwork that's going to have to happen. And it does still inflict some pain and some challenges in trying to reallocate resources and stuff. The labor pool that's been talked about, that isn't any better in England or Germany. And so to staff up there would be very challenging. And we also, across our organization, have a history of no layoffs. So when we do staff up, our intent is not to turn around and let people go if these tariffs get worked out. So, yeah, there's some challenges and some opportunities.
Right. We just don't know what they are yet.
That's right.
So as you consider those opportunities and the challenges, has it altered the way that you're planning for your business? We've talked a little bit about trying to, you have to have the longer term view and always kind of keep tact to that. But because we're in more turbulent times, has that shifted maybe the things that you focus on, or has it shifted maybe even where you think your business directionally is going to go? Because there are some of these opportunities that you think you might want to take advantage of. Or are you waiting to see how things settle out here in the next, say, several months?
My short answer is no. It hasn't changed too much. I think since I've joined Wirebelt, we've had COVID, we've had the war in Ukraine, AI is coming on, like we've had a ton of retirements. And specific to us, we have our US location, but we also have our locations in Europe, as I mentioned. And historically, they've operated somewhat autonomously. And so we're on a path where we're trying to figure out how to collaborate and work together a little bit more effectively. And this fits in with that pretty well. So, I mean, we're kind of on the same path in this instance. And it does add a little more urgency to planning, like getting better data on our capacity and some of our capabilities and where they reside so that we could flex for some of the stuff. But it's kind of on the same path. It's maybe just shifting timelines, recognizing where we drive attention towards one thing, we have to give up attention someplace else, just limited resources.
Mhm. Yeah, ditto. I mean, ever since 2008, it's never been this, like, we've had a wonderful period of we can sit back and relax. It just seems like there's always some kind of fire that we're trying to manage to. So, I, I mean, like I said earlier, we're trying to refine our processes. We're trying to, eke out whatever we can on our capacity, as far as going even leaner, working more with our employees and investing more in them. It's the last few years, we keep thinking we're going to have like a slow time so that we can actually sit back and analyze but that slow time hasn't come. So, which is a good thing, right? That's what everyone keeps telling us anyway. But it means that like the higher level decisions or plotting of where do we want to be sometimes takes the back burner as you're trying to manage the week to week or the month to month goals for the company. But I know for our side, we've also been going, well, where do we want to take Ambyx? Where's Ambyx going to go next? And are we part of it? So those are some conversations you have to have too, as a small business owner. So that's kind of what we've been working on as well.
I would agree with Melissa. Since 2008, it has been unstable, with no really long-term good times, as she mentioned. We have a very data-rich environment. I have all the transactional information of the last 25 years available at my fingertips. So it does give us the opportunity to look at trends and look how things go. And from that, we've been able to create a digital twin of our business. So I can simulate growth and see what the impact will be on capital requirements or personnel. And then within the limits that we see, we can see which way is the better way to go with any sort of change in the future.
That's awesome,
all
Val.
that
That's really cool.
What is a realistic timeline for planning? All three of you just mentioned how nothing's been constant and all of you have had to change your horizons. I mean, what is a useful, realistic timeline for planning purposes?
Planning takes place all the time. Plans are sort of a waste of time because, there's a picture of what your assumptions are at a given point in time, and the next day they're wrong. So I think you have to keep planning and doing contingency planning because you really don't know what the next step is going to be. So if you've been thinking about it and preparing for it, it makes it easier to respond.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important consideration.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, definitely playing out every scenario, how much growth this, at different levels or not growth. And like Val was saying, having in mind, what would you do in each of those scenarios and how are we going to steer the ship through them? And it won't be any easier, but it will at least give you some path forward.
So we only have a few minutes left. I guess I would appreciate hearing if you each have one big takeaway. If there's one thing that you would want the people who are out there listening to know about managing their business in a turbulent time, now's the time. And while you're contemplating that, we did have one attendee just provide some information about peer groups. The New Hampshire Business for Social Responsibility apparently offers peer groups as well. So sounded like at a high level that was a useful tool. So I just wanted to at least mention that. And now that you've had plenty of time to contemplate my big question, what is the one big takeaway that you each would expect or hope that the attendees would take away from the webinar? And maybe we'll start with Val on this one. He looks like he's keyed in.
Well, I think the concept of, continual planning is important now because things are so unstable. The opportunities for looking at a situation, thinking how you were going to respond to it, planning for that. It may never happen, but it does allow you to, look at your business and how it would respond to those situations. I think it's a continual thing, and I think it's valuable if part of your activity is always planning for contingencies and making sure that you're not going to be caught by surprise by just about anything that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Melissa.
Yeah, I would say build your ecosystem externally and internally, right? So have those resources, know where they are. So if you need them, they're there. So have those contingencies. And I think Amex does so well in that my husband is the engineer, right? So he's the one that has the capability vision. He's the one that puts out quotes where I'm like, I don't think we should do that. And then the next thing you know, I'm having to make it happen. So having people on your team that complement each other, right? So don't have everyone who's the chicken littles. It's good to have a diverse thought on your team to push each other, and also to have the people who think of the risks and the rainy days and the what ifs. Because like Val was saying, you really do need to plan for all possibilities. You hope for the best, plan for the worst. Like I'll give one example. My daughters the other day were like, when you used to have the electricity off and we would burn candles, we thought it was because we were just kind of like these Waldorf folky people. We didn't realize it was because you were pouring all your money into Ambix because it was 2008, right? And we had just bought a manufacturing plant and all these machines. And we're like, well, we're really glad you thought that it was just a really good fun time while we were shouldering all of that burden on us. So just make sure you're taking care of your mental health too. So yeah.
And I think from my perspective, it's a team sport. Don't forget that. I think focusing on differentiation is always going to serve you pretty well. And I also think it's worth spending a little bit of time thinking about what you're not going to do. I think to echo Melissa's comments in some respects, people have a lot of different things going on in some cases, and making a conscious decision, we're not going to worry about this right now, we're not going to worry about that right now, can help narrow some of that focus and hopefully keep you moving in a positive direction.
That's great. Well, thanks very much to all of you for attending and imparting your wisdom. I want to invite Ernesto Burden from New Hampshire Business Review back to the webinar to help us close things out.
Maybe I could just jump in before Ernesto takes it back over and just thank all three of you as well. This was very helpful, and thank you very much, all three of you, for participating.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yes, I'd like to also thank you all. Fascinating listening. It was a master class, and I appreciated your candor and willingness to be honest and vulnerable, and it was really amazing. So thank you all. I want to also thank, of course, our audience. Thank you for attending today's webinar, sponsored by She & Finney. Recording will be available soon at nhbr.com. We'll also be sending out an email. I'm Ernesto Burden, publisher of New Hampshire Business Review. Have a great rest of your day.